time for you to make a choice. Make a choice. Do you want to believe what the mainstream media tells you? If you do, then tune away now. Do you want to believe that your government has your best interests in mind? Then go to them for comfort. But if you're a free thinker, with an open mind, who is able to look through the veil to see the truth, then welcome to News Stalker.
Good evening and welcome to hour number 2 of News Stalker. It is the 17th of May, 2013. This is News Stalker on the Orion Talk Radio Network, where we, they, us, would like to remind you with our elected officials doing what they have done best since 9/11, rescinding our constitutional rights. Orion Talk Radio has asked that our politicians also be held to the same standard of accountability for crimes committed by their peers and by them. Please sign the petition on the front page of the Orion Talk Radio webpage, and let's hold our elected officials accountable to the same standards that they are trying to impose on us, being unfairly scrutinized for someone else's crimes. Of course, a great example of that would be every time some nut job taking the happy candy goes out and allegedly starts shooting people, then all gun owners are crazy. Contrast that with when somebody decides to start their own little jihad. We're supposed to remember that that's an individual, and you can't hold a whole group of people accountable. So, crazy world we live in. If you'd like to talk about it, the number is 716-213-6816. If you go to the Orion Talk Radio website, which is oriontalkradio.com, you can click on shows and hosts. You'll find News Stalker on there. You can start downloading some of the archived shows. You can also join us on the chat. Bob Green along with Stephen Williams and Erich Maximilian Headrich, and this is our last live hour for the week. Now, why am I saying that, Steve? What's going to happen on Sunday?
Well, probably Sunday is the rebroadcast or an archive version of News Stalker coming up from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
And that leads into Ken Hildebrand's show, correct?
I believe it does.
Yeah, and you can listen to Ken's show. We'll be telling you what Ken's show is a little later, but it's not time for a promo. It's time for us to talk about whatever we want. And I had an idea just for the first segment, so we get into the first break of the hour. This is the conclusion of our 6th week, I believe, on Orion Talk Radio. And I'm going to start with Steve. Why don't you give a brief history of how it was that News Stalker began and how we got to the point where we are now into a good month and a half on Orion Talk Radio?
Well, back to you, Bob.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Stephen Williams.
Well, Bob, we were doing the Underground Hard Drive show on Blog Talk Radio, and we happened to hook up with Erich Maximilian Headrich. And, oh boy, how did it happen after that? I just don't know. No, Erich was, what caught my eye was in Erich's profile was that he was an military air traffic controller, and he had his thoughts and views on 9/11. So we decided, hey, we got to get this guy on. So we got him on. It turned out to be a great show. I think we went, a 1-hour show, and we actually went 2 or 3 hours on that first show. I don't remember. But then we had Erich come back on. We said, you know what, we have to do this. We have to start doing this on a continuous basis. And so that's what we did, and that's where we are today. If you'd like to elaborate, Erich.
Would you like to elaborate, Erich?
Well, the first couple times we got together, there was a bit of magic there. We seemed to have a dynamic where some of the things that were said were shocking, but when you scratch the surface and then look at the documentation and the history of it, then it all made sense that we're being lied to. It made sense that our media is absolutely in cahoots with those forces that are wanting to strip us of our Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And we got to thinking about it once we seriously got approached by the Orion Talk Radio Network to come up with some type of format for the show. And the whole stalking thing seemed to be a real trendy thing where people would talk about, someone stalking their page or something stupid like that. But, we all collectively came together and thought, we need some news stalkers. And it just so happened that the .com was available, and we basically made an effort to focus this on stalking the news and then giving our viewpoints too at the same time. And, at some point, I would like to go into more of my history as an air traffic controller and 9/11 and putting that to rest. But I don't want to bore this audience. I hear a lot of the other shows talking about 9/11, and I don't want to just beat everybody over the head with it, even though I feel that that's the conspirators' weakest link is 9/11. I think that if everybody collectively came together with that, it would dwarf, Benghazi, for God's sakes, In fact, I'll let Bob elaborate from this point.
It's always in the back of our minds because it's the gateway to understanding how the world around us really works. But yeah, I mean, what you guys said is how it is. Steve and I have been doing shows on Blog Talk Radio for about 2 years, and then this just a few conversations we had with Erich, we thought just really blended well. And it took a little while, but we threw this show called News Stalker together. We made a few little promo pictures to throw around the internet, and next thing you know, we're approached by Orion Talk Radio. We're encouraged to start as soon as possible. The little promo things that we had thrown together on the old telephone ended up on the network's page, and here we are. And I think I don't want to say I think we blend well with Orion Talk Radio, because I think we're different than most of the shows. Although I was impressed. Seriously, the first time I listened to the Angry Beaver show, because it was similar to what we do in that it was some people having a conversation, but it was a conversation talking about what's really going on in the world. Whereas we may be, as people that use big words would say, we may be a bit irreverent in our way of conducting ourselves on the show. Sometimes we get into segments that are just downright silly, dare I say possibly entertaining, but when we get down to the nuts and bolts, we're still talking about the things that you can't hear anywhere else. And there are a lot of things in the works where we're going to start parading some just fascinating guests in and out our doors on a regular basis. So we're still growing. But it's been 6 weeks, and that's a long time. I know myself, I had some apprehension. I thought we were going to do a 1 hour show. And then I heard it was going to be a 2 hour show. And I thought, 2 hours a night? Monday through Friday, really? Because I already work 12 hours a day at minimum. And I know Steve works a lot, too, and I know Erich has his rock and roll thing going on. But then after the first week of doing the show, it got to a Saturday, and I thought to myself, I don't have a show tonight. And then I was home, and it was around 9 o'clock, and then I thought, I don't have a show tonight. More of like, I wouldn't mind popping on the air and doing a show right now. I'm kidding, Tim. We're not going to do a Saturday night show. There's already a fascinating show on Saturday nights with host Tim, so we wouldn't break into that evening anyway. But I think we're still growing, and I don't want to say we're growing with Orion Talk Radio. Maybe Orion Talk Radio is growing more used to us, because we're not going to be an encyclopedia type show. We're not going to take an issue and completely tear it apart, point after point after point. We do jump around a little bit. We're trying to get a conversation sparked. There's supposed to be a new phone system coming up in the not-too-distant future, where we'll be able to actually, we like to take calls, but we're a little reluctant, because when we take a call, that person is, boom, they're right on the air, and the next thing you know, you got a Canadian, and you got bumper music playing, and somebody asks them about Canadian music, Erich, and, but it's still fun. I mean, it's fun when it's raw like that. But the network has gone through hell and back just in the 6 weeks we've been here. We're getting hacked constantly, which means that we're doing this right. But we're all growing, and I think 6 weeks for us gentlemen is quite an accomplishment. And I think we've improved in what we're doing. I think we're nailing down what we're doing, and I think we should tip one back and enjoy ourselves. So we'll be back. We'll continue the discussion. If you'd like to steer it, the number to call is 716-213-6816. This is New Stalker on the Orion Talk Radio Network.